selling the renewal is a different business. You're not really selling the renewal. You have to service the customer so they renew, not automatically, but it's a no-brainer. How do you make a renewal a no-brainer? How do you get them to pay the second time and the third time and the fourth time, making that a no-brainer? Well, you got to work at it. And so this is really important. So it's not just for subscriptions. So I said, marketers sell subscriptions. How about the creative people, the owner of the company, the CEO sells the initial sale of the client?
Brian Kurtz has had two careers. The first spanned 34 years as a force behind Boardroom Inc., an iconic publisher and direct marketer. His second career, which he's 9 years into as the founder of Titans Marketing, is a direct marketing education and coaching company where he's also continued working with the best of the best. Titans Marketing is known for exclusive mastermind groups, an array of classic books and swipe files. Brian has republished and created, and he's the author of 2 books himself. During both careers, he's been a serial direct marketer with a foundation in the eternal truths and fundamentals of direct response, while being committed to over-delivering over almost 4 decades. An illustrious career and so much more good stuff to come. Brian, great to have you here.
Oh, great to be here, Nina. I'll say that it sounds like, how could someone so young have been in the business for over 40 years? So
that was my next question to you, Brian.
Yeah, your listeners need to know I started when I was 9. So
you're still going very strong.
Yes.
So in all of this, amazing array of work that you've done, the people that you've met, you've obviously had a huge amount of expertise and in-depth experience of marketers and people who are running their businesses and what helps them to be successful, what helps them to not be successful. And in all of this, mindset has played a role in your own career and in your own journey. So when did you first become aware of the role that your mindset was playing as you were making decisions, as you were changing course, transitioning from one thing to the other, and as you were showing up?
First of all, thank you for that gracious introduction. I've had a blessed career because I stand on the shoulders of giants. I've had the best mentors, as you suggested. I have learned from some of the best direct marketers, copywriters, people well known and just illustrious people who basically took my calls and were willing to answer my questions over the years. And because I have insatiable curiosity, it as long as I'm not a pest, I can really get the most out of my mentors and the people that I learned from. And that's probably, when you say, when did I realize mindset was playing a role? I got to tell you, it probably was in high school, because there's a concept that I learned way later, obviously, in my career, when I joined Strategic Coach, which is the organization that Dan Sullivan runs, which is the top organization for coaching for entrepreneurs. Dan Sullivan's the top coach for entrepreneurs in the world. And he has this exercise during the workshop where you do an exercise on how to deal with your staff. You do a scorecard. You map out a project for the next quarter, whatever you're doing. And then at the end of the exercise, there's another sheet that you fill out, and it's titled Thinking About Your Thinking. And that's copyrighted by Dan Sullivan. I'm not going to do any copyright infringement here. This is an amazing concept, though, that he invented. And the idea of thinking about your thinking. So you've been thinking now for a half hour in this workshop about filling out a form, and then you step back. Basically, you literally create a 30,000 foot view of what you just did. and you think about your thinking, and you come up with, and there are 3 boxes, thinking about your thinking. So every exercise almost, you do the thinking about your thinking. And I realized at that point that that's about the mindset that went into the projects. And here you are, you're immersed in these projects, and you're in the minutia of it. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, step back. What am I really trying to do here? Like, if I'm doing so, like I'll give you an example. So I'm planning a live event. So I'm talking about all the different elements. Then thinking about your thinking, it's like, wow, I want to make a bigger difference with influencers and marketing. That was a thinking about the thinking of the live event. And, but you need to it's like a physical stepping back. And because I'm in a workshop with Dan Sullivan, I was physically able to do that. So that's when it really manifested. But I always thought mindset and thinking about your thinking, which I didn't have that term, when I was in high school, and when I started my career, and when I was working at Boardroom, and when I launched my business, Titans Marketing. But I think that, and also as far as mindset for me, it's about your core values. And you'd say, well, mindset is like the thinking that you're thinking about of a project, or what you're thinking about, bigger thinking. But it's all based on basic values. And I have a bunch of them. Like I love quotes, and I love incorporating quotes into my life. And I have so many of them. But things like, this is about mindset though, things like, customers refund transactions, they don't refund relationships. So your financial planners, think about that. If they're thinking about, like, everybody is a client that you get money from, which is fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm not a nonprofit. Um, you want to get money, and you want to get, but there's something about, transaction versus relationship. That's a mindset above and beyond the business that you're in. I always say that, going back to relationships, I always go back to, everything in business and in life is not a revenue event, but everything is a relationship event. That's a core value, but it's a mindset of, how can I serve? And also the idea of serving, the idea of serving and not selling. And when I was just starting out at Boardroom, I was the list manager. So I was basically, it was direct mail. I don't know if anybody on this call would understand what I'm talking about, which is fine. But we had newsletters, and the newsletters had subscriber lists and buyer lists. And most companies had a list for direct mail that they would rent to the industry. Well, and they give it to a list manager to represent the list in the marketplace. We happened to manage the list in-house, and I was the in-house list manager. And that gave me a privilege of being able to interact with everybody who wanted to use our lists. And the fact was that our lists, and I'm not just saying this, they were like the best lists on the market, because they were they were direct mail derived, so that other direct mail offers would get a lot better response from the list, because our lists were from direct mail. They were affluent executives. They were, I'll call them mail order junkies, which I say very fondly, because they were always like into buying through the mail. And they bought through, kind of spectacular, hyperbolic kinds of packages, which made them like exciting people that you wanted to rent to other people, right? Because they were going to buy a lot of stuff. And everybody used our lists, like from the magazines to the fundraisers to the catalogs. Everybody used our list. So it put me in this position of like serving the industry on a very wide level. The industry, the industry is the direct mail industry at the time. So it's not this, it's not like I'm serving, um, uh, Silicon Valley or anything, but I'm serving like a small group of people. But it got me into a mindset of, I'm not selling, I'm serving. And being in service, and it's a subtle thing. Um, and if people, I'm not the first one that said this. I haven't invented anything in my life, but I take on those values that I get from what happens to me through my work, and I incorporate them into my life. And the idea of like just the way, and I think maybe you have a sense of it already being in my mastermind. I'm always like figuring out how to over deliver. My second book is called Over Deliver. I think you have a copy because you got a welcome package. Um, and I think that the
Here it
yeah,
is.
that's the book.
Great book. I recommend everyone read this.
Thank you. But it's not so much the book, but it's like if you think about everything in terms of over delivery, um, you'll always be serving. You'll always be, and so like in the mastermind that you're in, I just came up with two. I mean, it's already an amazing value. It's $2,000 a year, um, and you get so much. And we just came up with two new things that we added to it because we wanted to, because we wanted to serve, because we wanted the people to get the most out of the out of the group. Another thing that drives me so much is the idea of creating clients, creating customers, creating a list, creating an online family for a lifetime, not for as a one shot. So the idea of, there's a direct marketing principle which says, it's easier to keep a customer than get a new one. And I think your financial planners would agree with that. I mean, once they have a customer or a client that they're investing for, they're representing, like you don't want to lose that client. And that's a mindset. That's not just, a tactic. That's something that if you owe, and you have to serve them on a regular basis. You have to over deliver to them on a regular basis. You have to create barriers to switch. Like, why would they leave you for another financial planner? You have to build in your insurance policy through over delivery, through exceptional service, through doing stuff that the other guy is or the other woman isn't. And those are all like, that's not just selling, and that's not even just serving. That's a mindset that's involved in how do I keep every customer for life? And that's one that's driven me forever. In fact, I think it's in my book. I was sitting with the founder of the company at Boardroom, Marty, and we were sitting in his office one day and we're looking at the financials of the company. And we were looking at the sale, the first time sales of our books. And we looked at the new subscribers on our list, and we looked at all the revenue. And the biggest number on the spreadsheet was, we had one big newsletter. We had a bunch of newsletters, but one of the newsletters was huge. It was called Bottom Line Personal. And it was a consumer newsletter. It got to 1 million paid subscribers. This is for a print newsletter.
Wow.
And we got to 1 million subscribers. It settled back in at like, 400,000 or 500,000. But it was always over 400,000 subscribers. And we looked at the spreadsheet, and the biggest number on the spreadsheet was the renewals of Bottom Line Personal, not the new sales, not the first time renewals, but the compounding of the renewal number. Because and this is something that your financial planners should adapt as another mindset. This is so in the subscription business, I always like to say marketers sell subscriptions, editors sell renewals. So think about that. Marketers sell subscriptions, editors sell renewals. So the marketer goes out, we go out, we send a mailing piece, or we send an email, or we send whatever to get people to subscribe to our newsletter, to get people to join our group, to get people to become a member of what we're selling. But then selling the renewal is a different business. You're not really selling the renewal. You have to service the customer so they renew, not automatically, but it's a no-brainer. How do you make a renewal a no-brainer? How do you get them to pay the second time and the third time and the fourth time, making that a no-brainer? Well, you got to work at it. And so this is really important. So it's not just for subscriptions. So I said, marketers sell subscriptions. How about the creative people, the owner of the company, the CEO sells the initial sale of the client? Talk about financial planners. The the actual product or service or the elements of the service is what sells the renewals. So then you need to chunk down everything that you deliver or over deliver in that. And again, the initial phase is critically important. People talk about onboarding, like you onboard a new client. I wrote a blog post. It's like onboarding is not housekeeping. Onboarding is forever. And if you think about perpetual onboarding, and that's a real talk about mindset. If your mindset is that you're always onboarding a new client, even if they've been with you for 5 years, you will over deliver all the time. You will service them, and they will never leave you. I mean, that's the goal anyway. I mean, people will leave you, of course. But if you have that spirit, I think that it it makes it makes business much more fun. You're not just transacting, you're not just getting a client, investing their money, and then letting it go. And I think the best in any field, if you're a dentist, if you're a dentist, you want to like follow up with your clients with on when they need a cleaning, or that they had a cracked tooth at the last x-rays and you need to follow up with them. I mean, that's just common sense. But everything in your business should be about keeping customers for life. And that's the ultimate mindset that I live by my entire career.
Wonderful. I love it. And this applies to every single type of business. It's much easier.
I mean, I learned it in the subscription business, but I mean, you can see that it's so applicable to any business. Absolutely, Nina. And I know you get this because you live this every day.
And also I work for Time Life Books. And at one point I was a list manager and I was a product manager there. And we lived and breathed direct mail lists, because that's what gave us our revenue.
Well,
the importance of client retention. Exactly. And the importance of client retention was the heartbeat of our whole business.
Interesting you mentioned Time Life Books, because I use that as an example, and also the old record clubs, the RCA Record Club, Columbia Record Club, that there was a rule of thumb almost that said a new member to a record club, to the book, like Time Life Book series, that the average stick rate was like 4 months, and I'm sure you experienced this. So if you have a 12-month continuity, or maybe 24-month, where they get a book every month for 12 months, 24 months, after the 4th month, they start falling off a cliff. And that's a great lesson, which I think you learned. Obviously,
oh, yes.
Because now you're in a business that's all about, lifetime value and keeping customers for life as financial planners. And so I always use that. It's funny you mentioned Time Life Books, that you work there, because it makes sense now. It's making sense of, who you are and what you do. But I think that this 4-month, it's like, why do you want to be in business? You've developed a product or a service or something. Why do you want to have them with you for only 4 months? And 4 months is, some people, the average is 6 months. Some people, it's like a month and they leave you because you don't deliver. And again, when I talk about, marketers sell subscriptions, editors sell renewals, it could be, marketers sell the initial product, and the inventor and the product or service provider sells the renewals, like the actual product. Those issues need to be front and center all the time, because you're not looking for someone, you're cruising for a bruising if you're not gonna do do all of these things, onboarding, perpetual onboarding, treating them like gold all the time, especially at the beginning. Over delivering on a regular basis. There's a lot of things you can do to build into whatever you're doing. I mean, I always felt that the continuity business was behind, even though they were big businesses, Time Life Books and the record clubs and all of those. But I don't think they really understood deeply what it meant to serve and not just, send the monthly catalog and say, choose some stuff. It just wasn't, that's the record club model. And they had, millions of people signing up because the initial offer was like, 18, CDs for $1 or something. So you do that and then they leave you. That's another thing. You front load, and Time Life Books did this too. You front load your offer. So let's say the financial planner makes incredible promises at the beginning that they know they can't keep. Like it's similar to a record club saying you get 18 CDs for $1, and then everyone when you join is going to be like top dollar. It's going to be, 10.99 for, this was back then, $20 per CD. And there aren't any CDs anymore. But I'm dating myself. But you get the point. The point is that, it's not, you can over deliver too much at the beginning. That doesn't mean that you don't give away your best stuff early on. And that's one of the things also that is a mindset in online marketing as opposed to offline marketing. Offline, direct mail, TV, radio, because the media is so expensive, and in direct mail, you have to pay for printing. And in TV and radio, you have to pay for production of the ad. And so, it's like you need to you can't give away your best stuff up front because you need to get some money in because you've spent so much on the media. In online marketing, there's no excuse to not give away your best stuff up front. Like like a financial planner has a it's a good example. So you have a financial planner who has a unique investment philosophy. And I suggest that if you have something that's unique, name it. Like name it something, and name it creatively. Because whoever names when you name the game, you own the game. So you want to own your game. So the financial planner says, I have I'll make it up, the wealth advisor secret, the WAS, wealth advisor, WAS, whatever. And that's not a good name. But so the wealth advisor secret, you name it. And then when you pitch a new client, whether it's at a steak dinner or a one-on-one meeting or however you're doing your prospecting, you basically give it away. You tell them what it is. Because the thing is, in the online world and in the world of interactive marketing, you have to have the confidence that if you give away what you think is your best stuff for free, you have to have confidence that you have much more best stuff behind that. I find that, in online marketing, people doing launches for info products, they'll do these 3 videos in a launch, and they'll give away a lot of what they're going to be selling. Like they actually give it to you for free. And the moving of the free line was one of the things that moved considerably upstream in the marketing funnels, because you just had to basically, by giving away your secrets, so to speak, up front, that got you the lifetime value because then they trusted you more. It's like, I'm giving you the best of the best. Now I've got more bests behind this. But I gotta lead. It's like leading with your best shot. You don't want to have your headline buried on page 14 of your sales letter. You want it up top. You want it, you want to really severely, put it out there. And so I guess that's a mindset of having confidence that whatever you're selling, and using financial planners because financial planning, and your audience might not like hearing this, it's a commodity. It's a commodity. Anybody can invest my money in the stock market, in equities, and in 401ks or whatever. I mean, there are vehicles to invest money. Anybody can do it. What is your unique selling proposition is key. So what do you do that no one else does? Then you name that, and then you give away as much as possible early on in the relationship, even before money is exchanged, I guarantee you that's going to pave the way for a longer term relationship than tease them and say, when you pay, basically the difference is when you pay me, I'll give you my good stuff, which was always like what direct mail was about. Like it was always about the sizzle, not the steak. And I believe that, in today's marketing world and marketing, I'll include financial planning in there. Giving away more steak is actually the rule, not the exception, and up front. And I think it's a model. That's why the concept of content marketing became really popular, because you're basically giving the content, not just the sales letter. And that wasn't the way it was in direct mail in the 1980s and 90s. It was mostly sizzle. And so I hope this is resonating.
Yeah. I think this is brilliant. In a way, what we've been doing as businesses is we've been focusing on marketing, getting new people through the door. That's been our focus, instead of the focus being on taking great care of the clients we already have, because they can become referral partners. They can introduce their kids to you, and you could have a really sound practice by focusing on those quality clients instead of spending heaps and heaps of time and money bringing in new people, and they just keep leaving after a while. That's a very, very powerful lesson.
I wrote a blog post about, it was based on a Dan Sullivan concept, and it was the 5 ways we get paid, and the 5th is cash. And you already hinted at it when you said referrals. So the 5 ways we get paid are utilized. People utilize what you have. You enhance their world, their life. You appreciate them. I mean, when you send an appreciation letter or a gift, there's no money involved. You're spending something maybe on it, at least the postage, if you send it in the mail. So the appreciation is a key piece. The referral, like you have to think about referrals even at the beginning. Like, would this client ever want to refer me? How do I get them? How do I get myself to be referable? And those are the 4. And the 5th, it's what I call the reward, which would be the cash. So cash was 5th. But if you do the other 4, the cash just rolls in. So I think that the idea of that, payment is relative. It's not just cash. And getting paid in people appreciating you, or you appreciating them, and vice versa, enhancing them. You get paid for that. That's a payment. If you think in getting a referral, that's big payment, because that converts to cash a lot quicker.
That's huge.
Huge. So I think that, again, I guess this is a mindset as well. If you can think that, there are 5 ways to get paid and the 5th is cash, that'll give you so much freedom. And you said it beautifully. You said, I think you said, we're taught as marketers to just go out and make the sale. Well, that's what marketing does. But it's if you can go out to with the first promotion or the first video or the first webinar or the first, email with the second, third, and fourth order in mind, with how you're going to get the renewal by serving them beautifully for months and months and months and years and years and years. If you go out with the first offer with that mindset, as opposed to, God, if I send this out and I make money, that'll be great. Big difference between there's a huge gap between those two things.
Yeah, it's a gap between serving and selling, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's a completely different concept.
It is.
And it helps you to stand out from the crowd if you're the person who is serving and taking great care of your clients, as opposed to people who are doing transactional stuff all the time. Then you are going to be, that's your USP, isn't it?
Exactly. It's a way to diversify. Absolutely.
Yes, and really niche down.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love the way you talked about this, because it's so obvious, but it's so overlooked.
Yeah, I don't I know I'm not talking about stuff that people don't know. And I love that. I think I might have mentioned it in Over Deliver, but I've talked about it on a lot of podcasts. I already hinted at it when I said I never invented anything. And I'm proud of the fact that I never invented anything. But what I have done in my career is I've been able to connect the dots between all the things that I've gathered from other people, from my mentors, from the best of the best in marketing, the best of the best in business. I put them in my computer, which is up here, and kind of connect the dots and then create a presentation that's meaningful and accessible to an audience that wants to hear it. And then the most satisfying thing I ever get is someone saying to me when they read my book or I'm involved in some of these concepts with them, and I admit I haven't invented any of it. And they say, yeah, but I never got it until you explained it the way you explained it. There's a concept called RFM that's used in marketing. It's recency, frequency, monetary value. It's basically how people behave in the marketplace in every business. So from financial planner, the clients that have come in most recently, that are most frequent, the ones you engage with the most, the ones that continue to invest with you, and how much they're worth to you as a client. You put those three things together: recency, frequency, monetary value. You're going to have you'll identify your best customers, and then you'll know what kind of customers you want to go for in the future by matching that profile in RFM. It's a universal. I didn't invent it, believe me. So when I explain it in my book and people come back to me, I've had many people come back to me and go, I knew about RFM, but the way you explained it, now I get it. That, I mean, my heart usually drops a bit because that means that not my work is done here, but that is my purpose in life, to be a contribution to marketers on concepts that they may know, they may be familiar with, but I can bring it to life and then they can apply it to their business. I become the messenger. And I'll tell you something, the people who join my mastermind, who are on even on my list, my online family, as I call them, they never leave because they realize, the ones that some people just say, I knew that already. Thanks, Brian. I'm good, and that's fine. That's fine. But the ones that really, I don't need the credit, but the ones that can make me, ones that consider me the first domino, the domino theory, you hit the domino and they all go down. So being the first domino for someone on a concept in marketing is actually my life's purpose. So I'm not trying to beat other people to be the first domino, but they didn't have the domino in the first place because they weren't paying attention, and they paid attention when I explained it the way I explain it. Some people might get it from someone else as opposed to me because they don't get me or they don't understand what I'm saying. There might be people listening to me today on this call that are saying, I don't get this guy. And that's fine. You can't be all things to all people. But the ones that understand what I'm talking about, they want to be with me and I want to be with them because they're students. I say I'm being a teacher and a student at the same time is the best also. That's a mindset. Being a perpetual student, the idea that, I'm going to be learning until they put me in a box in the ground. I mean, I'm never going to stop learning. I'm never going to stop accumulating wisdom from people who came before me. I always say that, when I was early on in my career, when I was in my 20s, I gravitated to the 60 and 70 and even 80-year-olds who had been in the business forever. And, a lot of them were easy to find too, because no one wanted to deal with them. They wanted to just deal with the now. And my friends, my other, 20 somethings and 30 somethings would tell me, Brian, oh, you have a geriatric lunch today, with so-and-so. I mean, the guy's so old, you can't learn from him. And I'm like, wait a minute. They have all the wisdom. And of course, the downside is now that I'm 66 years old, most of those mentors are dead. Just do the math. If I'm 20 and they're 70 and now I'm 60, they're all dead. But I got so much from them. And so I'm using the term mindset a lot because I know that that's the that's the theme of this podcast, that having a mindset of, you know, the it's not just age, it's wisdom, right? And my ultimate mentor, Marty Edelston, who was the founder of Boardroom, always used to tell me, in his 70s and 80s, he'd say, Brian, on his birthday especially, he'd say, Brian, I love getting old because I get so smart. And because he was like so curious and so, I can do a whole podcast just about Marty, but just an amazing entrepreneur because of his insatiable curiosity and his hustle and his, generosity. All of those, all of those mindsets is what made him an amazing entrepreneur. He was ruthless to some degree, but ruthless for a purpose of contributing to society. And to me, going back to the idea of, the connection of dots as opposed to inventing stuff, I'll tell you that I get that. That's what jazzes me. I'm not looking to invent stuff.
Mm.
I come up with some quotes once in a while that maybe are unique, and I don't try to claim them. Whenever I hear a quote that I love, I always go to the Google and I say, who said this originally, right? So there was one, and actually you know about it because, oh no, you won't until if you renew Titans Accelerator, the second year renewal, you get a T-shirt with this on it. And it's a saying that says, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And then I have, if you're the smartest person on the Zoom screen, you're on the wrong Zoom screen. And I went to the Google and I had all these gurus, like contemporary gurus, like claiming that was their saying. But I went back to original source. I'm big on original source. That chapter 2 of my book is original source. And I went back and I found that it was traced to Confucius, BC. Like I said, okay, I don't have to go back any further. BC is far enough. And so
BC is far enough.
yeah. So I have like this caricature of Confucius on the T-shirt with the quote, if you're the smartest person in the room or Zoom screen, you're in the wrong room or Zoom screen. And then I put it on a mug. That's for the 4th year renewal for Titans Accelerator. So I keep the theme going because, and attribution is something that is critically important to me.
Absolutely.
It should be for everybody.
Yeah. It should be.
And it's better. It's better because if you give other people credit for what you're talking about, you still get credit. It's not like you need the credit. People are so needy to be the inventor of everything. I'm needy to get it out. I mean, you can see that I vomit from my mouth, diarrhea of the mouth, because I just can't help sharing everything in my head.
Absolutely. And it's been amazing hearing you sharing everything. There's been so much great information here. And just before we wrap up, I'd love to know how everyone who's listening has got so much value from all of this, how they can find out more about you and the amazing work you do. What's the simplest way for them to find out more about you?
I think if they go to briankurtz.net, BrianKurtz.net, it's a modest website. I mean, there's a lot of free content on the site. There are tabs for my blogs and for my my products that I sell, but that's not the important thing. You opt in. The homepage is an opt-in. You get an interview that I did with marketing great Perry Marshall on my 3 biggest, it says my marketing secrets, but they're my 3 biggest successes in my career at Boardroom. So it's a lengthy interview. And then you'll be on my list, and I hate calling it a list, even though I was a list guy. It's my online family. And I do a blog every Sunday. And then every Wednesday, I send out an installment of my Timeless Marketing podcast. All of that is free. Everything on the site, briankurtz.net, is free. And my blog posts are stories from my career with lessons. The only things I sell are educational products, most of which I own, whether it's Breakthrough Advertising, one of the greatest books ever written, or I talk about my accelerator mastermind, but it's not hard sell. Most of the selling is done in the PS because I want to use the body of the blog. So it's basically an information blog on direct marketing, on a lot of the stuff we've talked about on this call, going deeper and deeper into those things. If you want to get a little more of me, you can go to overdeliverbook.com. That's overdeliverbook.com. And there, it's better to go there to buy my book than to go to Amazon, because if you go there, you'll see a site where you'll get these 11 amazing bonuses worth thousands of dollars. Some of them are priceless, like out of print books,
amazing,
and PDFs. And so, and I don't make money on my book either. So, for a $20 book, you get thousands of dollars worth of bonuses from all of my mentors.
Amazing. You see, this is over-delivering. This is exactly what we're talking about, over-delivering. I would highly recommend that you check out Brian's stuff. I'm a member of his mastermind. Great, great value. You get to hang out with Brian and a ton of amazing people, very, very, skilled experts in their industry. Please go ahead and get the book. You will find so much value in there, exactly how to over-deliver for your clients. And Brian's emails are fantastic. I read every single one. They are brilliant.
Thank you for that, Nina.
Brian, thank you so much for being here. There's been so much in this call. I need to go back and re-listen to it myself. And for everyone who's joined us today, thank you for your company. And I hope you really, really got a ton of value from this. Till next time.